story. I think I have heard that story, Donna, but I'd love to hear it again.
Well, I wrote it down for one of my writing groups, but it's not well written, but it gives me, I was sharing it last night with my sister Rosemary, and we just started laughing. It was so great. But that's a wonderful moment that many people will remember as Gloria's stories. But that's not probably the place to begin. I don't know if you have to begin at the beginning or whether this can be because of the skill of the editing person that he can take whatever you want and just put it in order. But that's just what you reminded me of at the moment, was Gloria's stories. She's an amazing storyteller, and this story didn't really happen first in psychodrama. It happened on a trip that Gloria and my two daughters, when they were very young, and my mother and I took. And we were in Carmel. We went to see the place where I was born, which is in Los Angeles. And we were in Carmel, and Carmel is a beautiful beach with these wonderful cypress trees that are molded by the wind, and they are so gorgeous just to look at. And while we were walking along, there were these nuns in full habit having a picnic on the beach. And Gloria remembered the moment where she, as a procurator of the convent that she was in, was asked to procure bathing suits for all the nuns. And she set about getting the different sizes and the different colors and everything of bathing suits. And then they thought they were invited to a private beach to go swimming. But when it came time, Gloria had bought the same white beach coats to go over the bathing suits, and the same white bathing caps and thongs to walk in on the beach in the sand in. And but they thought it was too much of a luxury to buy beach bags, so they just got brown paper bags. So they all had their brown paper bags. They all had the same exact white beach coats and everything. I don't think they'd ever tried them on before. Maybe they had. But they arrive at the house of this woman who's invited them. And she takes them up to a bedroom, a large bedroom. And they have never undressed before in a group. They've only had their own privacy. And they're shy. And many of the women had not let their hair grow. Like it stayed shaped. And so immediately when they put on their bathing cap, their hair, to cover their hair. And they each got into the bathing suits. And there was one woman who was the nun who didn't know how to wear a bra. She had been issued a bra when she first went in there, but no one had told her how to wear it. And she wore it over the chemise that she had. They had all these petticoats and all the chemises, and they took them all off and then went into the thing. Reverend Mother said to them, just, get over your shyness, just get dressed into the bathing suits. So they did. And then she said, call me Angie. And for 20 years, they'd only called her Reverend Mother. And it was like so strange to do this. Anyway, so they put on their outfits, and then they were all set to go down into the car to go to the beach. And there they are. They're all wearing the outfits. You can just see them all. And they go down the stairs, and there at the front door is not only is the hostess, but the hostess's husband, who is in a wheelchair, and he's wanting to greet each of them. And here are these women who have not exposed themselves, and their skin is as white as anything, the skin that shows when they walk. And they are so embarrassed, and it's such a difficult moment. But they get through it, and they go into the car. They have this sort of small minivan, and they go into this car, and they have to drive another place to get name tags. They get the name tags, and then they get to what they think is private beach, and it really is a country club. So they have to go in among all the people in the country club who are all on their under their umbrellas or on the beach with their blankets. And they have to walk through the sand with their thongs, trying to manage in that. And they finally get to the place where there's no one around. And they walked past the lifeguard and past all the people that are there. And they get to this place, and then they're putting on sunscreen, and they want to go in the water. So they go in the water, and the white bathing suits are see-through. And so all the nuns are then circling the woman in the white bathing suits and to protect them. And at the same point, the lifeguard is noticing that they have gone past the boundaries of the lifeguard. And so he's blowing his whistle, and he's moving them to come back this way and come back this way. But this time, I think they're so rattled that they just put on their beach coats again, decide to leave. But it was one of those stories that Gloria told so well. It was wonderful. Anyway. Anybody who's heard her stories wanted to hear them again and again. I think I heard the story 100 times. Anyway.
That's the beauty of stories, isn't it? That you can hear them again and again, and they're still, you can feel the sense of it. I just love that.
Right. Yeah. But it's so graphic. I mean, being able to see them, being able to imagine and see just to see the shyness of these women coming out of a habit, which was a full habit with a big whipple at the front. Gloria used to pull her whipple back and play Indian with the kids, but most of them didn't do that. But again, what is it that you'd like to have in archives? Probably Gloria's story may be nice for some people who remember it. They will remember her telling it and the beauty of that. But that's not what we're here for, really. So, what is it you were hoping? I mean, I can remember, I'm very kinesthetic, so I can go back into an experience and remember it. I can remember my very first experience of psychodrama and the brilliance of Anne Hale and feeling the power of the method, and that it was so much deeper, went so much deeper than the counseling that I'd been doing with people. It was just aware. I also am aware I have my dishwasher on. Would you like me to turn it off? Can you hear it?
I cannot hear your dishwasher.
Okay. All right. I won't worry then. Anyway, it was, so my first experience of psychodrama, there were 60 people there. It was done on a stage at a theater in Toronto, the Capitol Theater, I think. And I fought to do a psychodrama. There were 3 people, I think, that were wanting to work. And it was really important to me to work. And so I got chosen. And Glenn was there. He was probably the only person from psychodrama who was there at that drama. And then the next weekend, which was in January, that was in December of 75. And the next weekend, which was in January, was my first weekend of sociometry. And I was like equally enamored with sociodrama and sociometry. The fact of people being conscious of your choices. And it was, we had, first of all, to introduce people. We had to introduce somebody we didn't know. And you had to tell the whole story of their life and what was happening for them. And I was so amazed at the person who introduced me. She even knew that I lived in a house with a lot of glass, you know, and the outside in and everything, which stunned me. Can't remember what I said about her, but I think it was accurate enough to be. And most people wouldn't have believed they could do it, but most people produced a story about the person that the person could relate to. And it was magic in that way. And just the ordinariness of sociometry, the ordinariness of the power of choice and how much it can make a difference. Thinking about when you go on the subway, you know, who you choose to sit next to, where you choose to sit, who chooses to sit next to each other in a group, and why, and the power and the joy in understanding our choices and knowing how we can choose differently. So those things were very present for me in my beginning. I remember becoming a student after the first experience, after the first weekend. And after the second weekend, I was absolutely sure I was in the right place. So it was the actual first experience I had of psychodrama was to hear about warm-ups. And that was on a workshop that Liz White and I did at an agency that Madeline worked at. And it was an agency for children, teenagers. And there was a woman there called Ramona Shapira. And Ramona was involved in Adlerian psychology, she and her husband. And she told us about the power of warm-ups. She had been to Beacon, to psychodrama. And so after that weekend, she and Liz had connected, and she and Liz and Madeline went to Beacon, and they had their first, I think that they may have done a week long in sociometry there. Anyway, with Anne Hale and Joe Powers. And Liz came back, and she and I worked at the Y together. And so she invited me for lunch and she told me blow by blow about every experience in the week. And at the end of that, she said that Anne had agreed to come for the 2 weekends, which I went to, and then I became a student. So it was quite amazing that I just learned last few weeks ago at Anne's memorial that she had only started psychodrama 2 years before I did, in 73.
That surprises
So
you.
I was surprised at that. I thought she had been around, and Moreno died in 74. So she had 1 year with Moreno. And I know she worked with him on revising the student version of Who Shall Survive. And I think she really made it much more readable. So that was the gift. But she had been at the Moreno Institute. She was, by training, she was a librarian. Moreno called her the librarian of God. And she was a musician. So she brought her music and her organizational abilities. And she took the Beacon training, didn't have any checklist, didn't have anything that you could know when you finished beyond the fact that you were there a certain amount of time. And she created the first structure, which was a structure that would help people to know when they learn things. Now, we went on to do to add to that as a group. Initially, she just had the exercises you had to do, but she didn't have, like, what will you know? How will you know you have them? Have that. She didn't know the competencies. We put those in. And
Who's
I think that
Donna?
The Toronto Centre.
Okay.
After she left, we reviewed and added to the checklist, the initial. But the initial process, I mean, there were we were a very active group at that point. There were, I think, it was about the same time as we went to all excited to present to the ASGPP the model that we had developed, which was after we became a collective. Because we had first started without a board. There was no board. And then after a few years, Anne decided we needed to have a board. So we got a board. And then when Anne left, which was about I don't know exactly, but around 1980, early 80s, 81 or something, right? We began to be a collective.
Whose idea was that? How did you come up with that?
I think it's Madeline.
Uh-huh.
Madeline and Liz were talking, and I think they came up with that idea of making it a more rather than being a center person focused center, which most of them are, to make it a collective focus and to work together in that way. And Madeline had been involved in activist groups and had a lot of skills in that. And it was wonderful to see how powerful in the early collective days we had so many people, because everyone could come be part of the collective. And then it was like the decision process, people weaned themselves away. But we had 13 people in the collective. And so that's a little bit, some people would think that's unwieldy for decision making. But the collective decision making process was meant that if anyone had any objections, we stayed with the objections until the person would make them clear, and we could either adjust what was happening to include that, or the person changed their mind. So something happened in that dialogue and in the staying together until there was a solution. And the end result was that everyone felt ownership of whatever decisions were made. And it was not one person doing the work, but a community all committed and willing to find what part they could do in it, which helped. I remember, I think Susan Aaron was in that group. And there were some people who had not previously had psychodrama experience, but they came on the board at that point. They were, and then everybody, we gave up the board, and it was all the group. So, that's interesting. Diana, but I think this is not the collective time, but there's from the collective there. There's Penny and Earl. This right here is Uli, who died. He's now no longer alive. This now, is that Penny? Yes, that's Penny. Is that Mary Therese? I don't know. I can't see well enough.
I can scan the picture and send it to you. And
yes,
that might say, it says in the back there, brochure and publicity. There's something on the back there.
Right.
There's
I think this probably was a collective name. Diana Phillips is there. There's Madeline. I don't know if that's Susan Aaron, that one. Can't tell.
I could scan it and send you, and then that might
Pauline, I could write down the names of the people that I know.
Yeah, because it says it is 15th of October, 89.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one. Yeah.
Right. One of the questions that Ananta and I are pondering is, with some of these older photos, what permissions do we need in order to, if we were going to put them up on our website or anything? And because we don't know who they are, and we don't know who's alive and who's not, and how we get permissions from people. And
well, I think the only thing you could do is gather as much information from anybody who's around. Like Glenn might have some keys about that.
That's a good idea.
And I can give you, if I can look at them clearly enough, I can probably, I might not find the names, but Madeline might be able to give you the names of the people, particularly the people that were in her network. Or Penny or Earl. I don't know if Earl's still alive, but I think he is. So if I get the picture, I can call and I can ask things about it. So I can do that. My memory is not always so good with names, everybody's names at this point over time. but the picture helps to make me eventually maybe get it.
Yeah, and sometimes there are, when you have made these things, when you have put them in the album, some of them do have something written in the back or on a separate piece of paper. So I'll look again to see whether there is any notings that you have made of the names.
Right.
If that's the case, I will send that also along with it.
I think that around that question, which is like, what do you do about permissions? If you have on the picture that you are, that if something, a question, if you're on this and you would like your name included, we would be happy to put it on.
Nice idea. Nice idea.
And then they can say, I don't want my picture there. I don't want my name there, whatever. They can say if they find their way onto the website. But again, who's going to find their way onto the website except somebody who's interested, right? So, and if they say, I saw your picture in on the website of the Toronto Centre, then that will bring the person to look themselves maybe, and then they would contact you or tell you whatever. Just
That's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Yeah, thank you.
and you can always offer to take it off if people don't want it, but I can't see that people who were having their picture taken at the time wouldn't be okay with having their awareness of them being involved with the Toronto Centre. It's not like Toronto Centre was infamous or something.
Well, Ananta also found a whole bunch of photos that are black and whites of very close-up headshots.
Yes.
And there was a name on the envelope, Patricia Roberts, I think it was.
Pauline Roberts.
Yes.
Pauline Roberts.
Pauline Roberts, yes.
Yeah.
Now, Pauline Roberts lived in Oshawa.
Yeah.
And I think she was probably doing publicity at one point. So she probably had there and maybe put them in there when she decided that she was no longer able to do psychodrama or be part of it.
Yeah, so there is this picture.
Right.
Yeah.
That's Helmut.
Yeah.
What is his last name?
Drabert.
What is it?
Drabert, D-R-A-B-E-R-T. Helmut Drabert. And this says Helmut Jung.
Yes, okay.
So those are
They were from Germany. There were whole groups from Germany that were connected to Eliza, and that's
Angelica.
Angelica.
Angelica, yes. Yeah.
I have some pictures of Angelica with her baby in
Okay.
Munich when I went to see her there.
Yeah, and there is Anne here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely. That would have been lovely in her memorial. Yeah.
We can scan it and put it somewhere now. Then there is this one, Marco.
He's a plumber. What is Marco's last name? There's a story about Marco.
Whitby or Whiteley or Whitby, something like that. W-H-I-T-E.
Whiteley, I think it is.
Whiteley, yeah.
Whiteley. And there's a story about him because he came and did a workshop with Anne. He had, I don't know whether I should tell the story or not. Anyway, I probably shouldn't. He had a relationship with someone in the group, and that created a struggle both with Anne and with the group member. So it never they got resolved.
Then there is this one with a lot of people in here.
Okay, there's my husband, Hugh. He was on the board. So
Uh-huh.
there's Angel at the back taking the picture.
Okay.
There's Angelica. I think this was taken, and there's Helmut at the front. And Johannes is back there next to Angelica. Johannes Pfefflin, Elizabeth Pfefflin's brother. And that was taken in, I think, 1980. Maybe.
Yeah, it says 14 on top there. The building has some number on it, and that is 14.
Yes. It's a school that's right on. I think it's on Elm Avenue and Mount Pleasant, and it's a girls' school. It's a private school, and we rented it for the weekend or the week or whatever we.
Okay. Okay.
Marco Whiteley. Interesting.
Then there is this one. That is
Ulrika.
Ulrika. Yes.
Ulrika.
Yeah, there's that one. And then there is this one, which has no name on it. Don't know. And that's all. So of these, then there aren't, other than Anne's picture, there isn't anything that is really closely related to the history of.
Well, they were students of the Toronto Centre, all of those.
They were, okay.
They were students working with Anne at that.
Okay, okay.
So they were all related to at that point in time to the Toronto Centre, and they came to workshops that she did mostly in the summer and stuff. And they came together.
All right. Okay.
There are about 6 of them. So.
So did the Toronto Centre have like students right from the beginning? You said you joined very quickly. So was that yeah, okay.
I did. Not everybody joined right away, but there was the same group that came to all those sessions, like Madeline, Penny. There were people. Eliza was training at Beacon at that time, and she came up for the things that Anne was doing. Judy Swallow, who teaches in Hudson Valley, was come up for a number of things that year. We had Anne brought in wonderful trainers. She brought in Jonathan Fox to do playback theater, and she brought the whole playback theater troupe came, and they did playback theater for us in the training and trained us in exercises to help us to learn that method. And it was before it became a playback theater school, but later it became a distinct from psychodrama, but at that point it was part of psychodrama. But Jonathan Fox was an amazing creative person who would travel on the bus as sort of like a clown and get people talking to each other and relating to each other in the bus. And it was the most wonderful thing to work with him. He's quite special and always has been. His wife was a musician, and she came. She was part of the troupe, and And lots of, I think Glenn was part of that initial group that was coming. I'm trying to think about, I've been trying to think all day about the storyteller who started the storytelling school in Toronto. He was one of our teachers.
Oh, I didn't know that. We still get emails from that community.
Mhm.
And so that's interesting. I didn't know he was part of the center as well.
Well, he did teaching us about story, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think what his name is. I was talking to storytellers this morning and trying to remember. But, I probably should go on my phone. I could maybe find out if he's still doing storytelling. Anyway, so that group seemed to come. There was Pauline, there was Margie Colley, who came from Guelph. And I don't know if Margie Colley came the first year or the second year or something, but she came soon after that. And then there was Lois McLaurin, who also came from, I think, Whitby somewhere, who was also part of the early days. So Liz and I and Madeline and Penny. Earl did some teaching because he had graduated from the Moreno School, so he was living in Toronto, and he came and did some workshops for us in the beginning.
I have a question for you, Donna.
Yes.
Ananta was sharing with me about a previous conversation the two of you had, and you were talking about the midwifery work that you have done, and I'm wondering if you can tell a little bit more about how you saw yourself as a midwife at the Toronto Centre, and how it's connected to your life.
Well, I think that was words for it at a later time. I remember, I think one of the times when I was on the board and I had to write something, I wrote about the midwife role. And I think it's about seeing, and the gift of psychodrama is that it really invites you to look beyond the person and the behaviors of the moment to what is their soul and what is that essence of them which needs to come forth. And in that process, it's midwifing that piece. It's like holding them as God sees them, and working with them to free themselves from the internal struggles, the internal demons that they have to face, and finding that part of themselves that can slay the demon, finding that part of themselves that can enable them to find who they are and who they were meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Penny had not Penny, but had a good way of saying it, and that the Toronto Centre is not so much a teacher, but it enables people to unfold themselves, to become who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It was deeper than that. It's what disturbs me a little bit about the moves that the American board is doing to make it less and less hours that people have to do, and because of COVID and not being able to get in person. And the real thing is that psychodrama, what I know of is it gets me out of the way so that I can see the other person. Are. And that's, and without that, the rigor of that training, I think, and the caring of that trainers, you don't get there. I think people have a bag of tricks, but they don't really know how to use themselves. And it is about using ourselves in the way and not being in the way.
Well, and you made some comments about what you see about the changes with the ABE. What's your thoughts about the changes that you're seeing with TCPS? And because
I haven't really seen any action with it, so I don't know about that. What I just know is that recently they offered anybody who had 400 something hours could come and write the exam, and they've had like 3 times the numbers of people coming to write the exam, because the trainers are saying you'll never get it so easy with the board. Why the trainers want to do that, I don't know. But anyway, it's I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask you, because you've been on the ground seeing that, right? What is it like? I mean, I have only to imagine.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think that many psychodramatists had made the best that they could out of COVID and the limits that COVID brought. And Ananta and I did a couple of online workshops, and they worked out better than what I had hoped, or better than what I had feared. I don't know how to say that, but I can't wait to get back into doing more in-person work, because it's just not the same, right? It's not the same at all. And
Right.
And the limits that this kind of forum brings is even just only one person being able to speak at a time is just really limiting, right? And so, not to mention the touch and the human experience and the coffee and tea before and after, and the informal connections, and all of that is lost. And it's cost a lot, so it's certainly not the same at all. Right. I think you get a little sliver out of having some personal insight, but and we did the best we could with the sociometry, but it's really, it limits the connections that people can have with each other.
Right.
Yeah. What do you have anything to add to that, Ananta? Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're planning on having two in-person workshops in the fall time, and we might connect with one remote one. And the interesting thing about the video one is we had people from, what was it, 4 different countries? I think 4 different countries, right? Ananta in our workshops. And so that was kind of neat to be able to
Yes.
to do it that way. So that was one of the things I loved about it.
Did you tape it?
No, we should do some, at least seek permission and tape some of that, so just see what that is.
Really interesting to see.
But we haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things when I came here, Donna, uh, that I found was very helpful was the way you and Barbara gave feedback after the workshop. So how did you come to develop that? I take
I
it
think
that's
we
not
came,
how it was
no,
originally. So tell me that
no,
story.
no. I think um, Zirka Moreno, when she taught the Moreno Institute, I didn't know this until after, but it made a lot of sense about Anne's experience in teaching, because Zirka would scream from the back of the room, "Role reverse," if somebody else was directing. Like, and people were talking about it, and they were saying in their heads, they saw the words "role reverse," in flashing lights or something. I think that mostly it was the hurtfulness of the evaluations of or the processing that made us feel that people, in order to receive the things that were being said and that needed to be said, needed to also know what they did that was good. And it was finding that grounding to be able to offer that so that somebody could hear. Because I remember, I can remember myself. I had this this kind of stuffed doll that was Wilbur, and Wilbur had a heart, and he was not too bright looking. I remember being with Wilbur after I directed the drama, and Wilbur was telling me that he loved me, and that I needed to learn and improve what I did, but I needed to know I was loved. So I think there is something of that experience of so many people who ran crying from the experience or were unable to hear the things that the Moreno Institute way of getting across when something was not right was not so helpful for people, and it also put them in a position where they were critical of themselves doing what they were doing. And whereas if you could trust that they would learn something no matter what, and the people who were doing the drama had chosen them because there was a sociometry and a connection that was important, and that there would be something of value in the co-creation that was done. And so it's like how you make it so that people can receive the learnings and see that there are many different ways to do things. And there might be some better ways than the ways they had discovered. So,
Well, Donna, the feedback that I've received from you and other trainers directly influenced the way that I give feedback at my work. I train a lot of student therapists and
yes.
supervise a lot of staff. And I will often ask them when we review a session together, what do you feel you did well? What were your moments of difficulty? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I've had staff who've moved on to other locations to work at other agencies who connect with me afterwards and say how much they appreciate the way that they were guided into learning how to be a therapist, and it's directly influenced by you and how you taught me how to be a teacher.
Right.
Mhm.
And Nobody teaches people how. You get good at what you do, and then you're made a supervisor.
There you
And
go.
nobody teaches you what you can do in that. I did a lot of studying about one person who's really good in terms of helping with supervision is what's his name? I have this book. I can go up and look for it. Then I can tell you who it is. He's from Australia. He's written a couple of wonderful books. He's a very good thinker and has done a lot of organizational work in Australia and around. But he did a workshop on supervision in New York at one of the ASGPP meetings that I went to. And he did a workshop in Switzerland, and I went to it. And he used he used he used magnets. So we did some work in the center with magnets. Mm-hmm. Magnets, you chose a magnet, 3 magnets to represent you, and 3 magnets to represent the problem. And then you choose to move one of those magnets. And then when you choose to move one of those magnets of yourself closer to, then you choose the person the person is, okay, so here's B is you're supervising. Mm-hmm. B chooses 3 magnets to represent themselves, and 3 magnets, they represent the problem in a supervision mm-hmm. situation at the moment. Mm-hmm. Then you ask them to also choose 3 magnets that represent the client mm-hmm. and 3 magnets that represent the client's problems. And then you look at those and then you say, okay, now looking at them, what changes would you like to make? Mm-hmm. And a change in their own self. And then they're imagining what difference that's going to make to the client and what changes are there in the client and in the thing. And until they actually get to the place where they're comfortable with that picture, they're not finished. They don't even have to tell you all the details about it. Mm-hmm. Have to be able themselves to look at it in a new way.
I like that, Donna.
I should get the book. I have 2 of his books. So I've sent one to Ananta, but you haven't got any of the ones I sent you, Ananta. So I'll go get him because you should have his name.
We are going through most of the questions that we had.
We are organically, yeah. Of course, yeah. Right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I'm just going to pause for a moment.
Okay. Anthony Williams, yeah. Mm-hmm. I've actually done one workshop with him. I forgot that. But he did not use magnets there. So
he has a lot of techniques. But he's really a wonderful help in giving you ideas to work with. He's also written Forbidden Agendas and The Passionate Technique.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Those are 3 books worth reading.
Excellent. I wrote it down.
Okay. so he did not ever come to the Toronto Centre as a teacher. Anne was going to bring John Nolte to do who has written his book, is the best theory book.
Yeah.
Geometry and psychodrama. It's wonderful. And he writes much better than he is as a person.
Oh, is that so?
As a person, he is very introverted and kind of ironic and caustic. And he's a little bit standoffish. He's right. He writes with his heart in the book. It was, but Liz White and I were the only ones who signed up for that workshop. So it got canceled. And he never came to Toronto to teach that. So when I saw his book, I was very glad. And I thought, well, it's expensive, but I would have paid that much to go and see him. And I'm very glad I got his book. It was well worth reading. He's a challenging personality, but we had Jonathan Fox come and do a leadership workshop. We had let's see, should have gone over all my books and been able to tell you all of these workshop leaders.
Donna, in the archives, in the minutes somewhere, there is a mention of very strong European connection that TCPS had. What was that about?
Elizabeth Pfefflin was a very strong connection. And that was that all those students that came through her, it was like 7 or 8 students from Europe that would come to our summer workshops. While Anne was here. But that ended around when Anne left. They didn't come back. Some of them did. I was also asked in 1980 to do my first European training. And so there were people from that training that came to the Toronto Centre. And I was asked a number of times to go back and do trainings. And at one point, Liz and I did a training there with Eliza. And there are students that came to the Toronto Centre through and were going to be in Toronto for a period of time and lived here. And they came from that connection. They had an experience.
Mm-hmm. Donna, tell me about your presentation in New York.
Oh, the sociometry group. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were all very excited. We worked very hard on a presentation. There were the 13 of us. We would come to meetings and we would decide what we were going to do and who was going to do what and how. And we were going off almost like feeling like this was a really exciting thing that we had been able to put sociometry into the running of the group of the center. And we were so excited about it. The people that came to it, there were 3 people that came. One was from Toronto, a therapist, my sister Gloria's therapist. There were 2 other people. Anyway, there were 3 participants that came to the presentation by 13 people. So it was, as you could see, a little leader heavy. But years later, they gave us an award for a collaboration at the Toronto Centre. So we received the collaboration award from the American group of psycho, because eventually they got it. but they did
You were
not.
early, you're ahead of the times.
Yes. And I don't think there's been another psychodrama center that has modeled itself on sociometry and doing
I don't think so,
sociometry.
yeah. Mhm.
They're all stars. I mean, there's certainly in Texas. I was asked to do a master class in Texas, and in Texas, they asked me to do sociometry, so I did sociometry in all the groups, and they were very excited about it. And I think that when people are exposed to sociometry, they do get excited. They do see the benefits, and they do see the interrelationship to psychodrama. But there's not much that's happening that does that. And we were very fortunate to have Anne Hale, who was so passionate about sociometry, to give that, instill that in the training and in the teachings of the early days, and that we risked doing. I mean, we had what was almost the undoing of Anne Hale was the last series of weeks that she did. She did 3 weeks of sociometry. She wanted so intensely to have that experience for people. And there were some people that came, but it didn't really, it didn't make money, I don't think, that year. And it was wonderful for me because I was a student assistant and I got to have the benefit of seeing the over time. Some people could come each week new, but there were people who were there the entire time. And it was pretty special. So I think that was a unique mark that psychodrama will miss in Anne Hale's not being there.
I had the lovely experience of talking to Anne Hale. And so
Yes.
I called her as part of our process of really gaining permissions from people to move forward. And she and I had a lovely conversation. So this probably was maybe 3 years ago, I think, Ananta, when we were doing that, right? And so, but the thing that I was struck with Anne as well is not only was she instrumental in bringing the center together, she also was very humble about what her role was too. So she wasn't saying, yes, I did this and I did that, and she was very collaborative, which really shows the sociometric instinct that she has inside of her too, about the collaboration and co-creation of everything.
Right.
And so I found her very, very willing to to share the stage with everybody, right? Mm-hmm.
I think that hasn't always been the case, Kim, but I
Okay.
think she has grown in
Ah.
that process. And
Ah.
so you got some of that growth.
Mm.
I think like all of us, she struggled at times.
Mhm.
And what she was able to do is I discovered after she died, I didn't know this before, that in the Enneagram, she is an 8. And the 8 is very difficult for people to deal with.
Mm.
And the Toronto Centre, when the summer that I had the spleen damage and was not working with her, she trusted me, and she allowed me to intervene when she would get into trouble. And the first time I never intervened because she'd say to me, why didn't you move in and do something when she had a conflict with someone? And I said, I thought you were doing fine for yourself. It's like I was more concerned, how do I help this person, the other person, to and to manage this? And she said, I didn't like the way I acted in that moment. If you had intervened, I would have stopped and reflected and thought and then done something differently. So that was really good, because there was a period of about 10 years or 20 years where I decided that I would do every workshop that she wanted to do with her to support her in bringing her sociometry to the world, because it was so important. And else had it, what she could offer. And that she, and then there was a time recently, the last workshop I think we did together was in Texas, and we had, I think it was 30 people there, and people had come from Taiwan, and they come from all over. It was before the conference, and there was an ice storm here, and I couldn't get out. I was at the airport for a couple of days.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And when I got there, the group was a bit frightened of Anne, because she had lost it in there, and we were able to deal with it. But it was, I think she either had a heart attack on the way home from that, or something happened to her in that place. And so it was, she did some workshops on the Zoom afterwards, but she didn't do any others out. And she did her best work when she felt supported. And she was in New Zealand when just before I was going to Taiwan. I went to the New Zealand conference, and she got a very bad cold. She had a fever. She was leading a group for 3 days. And she asked me if I would lead with her. And I said, no, I can't take on 35 people just before I go to take on 400. I need not to be doing that. So she said, well, can you come and be in the group? And I said, yes, if you get permission, because the group was already filled. And so I did that. And I was there for the moments of difficulty that she had, and could make a difference in that. And I think that she was growing until she died. She had such a brilliant mind, but she didn't ground herself in her body. So she rose above it. She had a spirit. She had this incredible compassion and ability to see people and to see the problems, but she couldn't have that compassion for herself. So it was a good thing. And there were moments where if I had, in the early time, there were moments when I was a student where if people wanted me to direct too much, she would say or do something that put me into a warm-up. And I ended up doing a drama. That helped me a lot. I got a lot of work done. But in retrospect, it's we had one encounter when I was a student, and she had said, I don't want any friend roles in this at all. So I did the encounter without any friend roles, and she did hers with friend roles in it. So I was like, oh, okay. Roll diagrams were very helpful. And encounters were very helpful. And I think what mellowed her, and she was able to take from me a lot more gentleness to herself. And that made a big difference. I don't think it was easy in the last years when living in a nursing home. It's not an easy process, but I think she learned how to say the things that she needed to say in such a way without blame, in that she could get her needs met. That I think is very, very tricky at times. So she was also working, doing sociometry with somebody in business up until the last time. She had her last student who went in June to become, going to write the trainer exams. It's
Amazing.
Dawn, I have another question.
yes.
So, you told me about this thing, a time when she was doing a workshop, Anne Hale, that is,
Yes.
and the whole group wanted to stay together.
Oh, yes.
And
It's
it
in the
had
first
huge
year.
implications. Right. So you took a lot from that for future work. So tell me about that one.
Right. Yes. We were very keen students. I had gone away and done a workshop with Zirka Moreno and her partner. And I came back and had opened up in myself a lot of baby rage. Now, I should probably tell you this drama been, I think this is the first time I struck it. Earlier, when I was at my first level, Anne said to me, you could be a professional double, but I don't think you can ever be a director. And she said, you are not able to use your anger in the service of other people's growth. And so then what she did is creatively thought about how to dramatize that, how to put that in action. And she did. She created a moment where she put that in action, and I was in a cage and people were sticking batakas at me and doing all kinds of things to me. And finally, I was able to fight for myself and bring that the soul's concern for me out beyond that. So then I think I told you this too before, that I went to Beacon to do my first week at Beacon. And Zirka was directing a drama, and this woman came up and it was on the stage, and she had the protagonist chose me to be a woman on the bus who looked at her with disdain and hatred. So I had to sustain hatred throughout the entire drama.
Wow.
And I felt quite good about that. And anyway, the woman got what she needed in the drama. And then the woman and I were in the same group that was starting with Jonathan Fox the next day. So when we're in the starting, she says to me, I can't get your disdain out of my head. Every time I look at you, I see it. And I laughed. I started to laugh. It was like so great for me, so great to hear that I had not only been able to use it in the drama, but somebody would look at me and look at that and see how much I could hold that. So I was really quite pleased with that, and she got over it and didn't see me like that anymore. And but this was, I think this was after that we were having a residential week, and I had gone with Eliza was there, and so she and I had gone to this workshop of Zerka's in Colorado at Carl Hollander's place, and then she had then she wanted to go to bioenergetics, so we went to bioenergetics, and so I was all warmed up to dealing with the rage inside myself, but I hadn't. And then we had a drama that was a suicidal drama, which was dealing with rage, right? The rage at yourself. And everyone was very tired from that. It was a very demanding drama for all of us. And it was the break time. We were coming together for another session in the afternoon. That was the morning. And I remember going to Liz, and I could not contain the rage anymore. And she held me, and I started to rage. And then we came together. And I knew, like I'm very good at role reversing, and I knew nobody would want to do my drama. But I had to ask for it anyway. And I had to ask, and knowing that it would be the last thing people would really choose to do for their afternoon. Yet people chose to do it. And the drama wasn't that hard on them, actually. It was only me, because I was very little. I was just a year and a half. And it was a drama that it was, my mother looked at me with a look of hatred, and I made a decision that I had to be a good girl, that I couldn't be who I was and survive because I needed my mother's love. So so in doing that drama and in doing that repair, the next morning I woke up and I wrote 11 poems. I was like, the child in me was just so happy. So it was a wonderful time. And then this drama that I did, there was the suicidal drama. Everybody's dramas were big. Anne was the only director. And she was exhausted by the end of the workshop. And she wanted us to split up and do smaller exercises. We said, no, we want to be in each other's work. We all want to be part of that. And so she was outnumbered and she did it, but reluctantly. And at the end, she was seething mad at us. She was like, we wanted to lift her up and to rock her and to do all these things she wanted to get the hell out of there. And she had a workshop to do the next day. She was she was an introvert, very strongly needing time to process after she finished. Anyway, the next day at 7:00 or something, we gathered at this venue, and there was a stage there, and she called all of us up on the stage, and she tore a strip off us in front of the whole group. And those who were No Neat Lion met me for the first time. And And the thing that I learned is that that what she had asked for was reasonable, and that you can't do that. One leader cannot do everybody's work in that week. It's too intense. It has to be balanced with all kinds of smaller learning experiences where everyone gets a chance to be in action. And so whenever people would, in the group, start a movement to break, to stay together, I just would speak up from that learning, and just to say that people get much more chance to do their own work, to do auxiliary work, to do the learnings in action in smaller group settings. And there are times when the whole group is needed for a drama, and that's not a question. But in order to look for the interests of everyone in the group, it's good to see that as a possibility, and that wonderful dramas can be done with 2 people. Wonderful dramas can be done with 3 people, 1 director and 1 auxiliary. And it doesn't have to be that you have the whole group open. So that was very good learning, which I think we benefited from in the center.
Donna, how did you guys decide about this thing that you're going to have week-longs and weekends and shorter workshops? What was the thinking behind that, and how did you arrive at it?
One of the things I'm thinking about, this isn't really answering your question, but it's sort of is. One way we had of training, the training series that we had, where the same group would be in that series, whether it was on weeknights or weekends. That came about because people were tired of having to begin again for the learning for every time there was just new people in it, and realization that they could go much further if they didn't have to start at the beginning. Whereas sometimes I think it's important to review and to teach what you already know, and that people can do that for each other. But the students made a point, that came from the students who wanted the advantage of having already community built, and then to grow from there together. That was there. I think residential weeks, Anne had introduced them, and they were powerful. There is no question when you stay together over time and you work, you are doing things sociometrically with each other, you're working together, you're building a safe net. And that safe net created some of the best dramas that deep dramas that people needed the safety to do. And so to say that people needed to do a residential week each level, they didn't have to do it each year, but they had to do it each level, so that you had that experience to be able to possibly more deeply go into your drama.
When I look at the pictures, they seem like these are people having a lot of fun. Not that psychodrama is fun by itself. I experience it myself, but it's like, people are there with their spouses, with their children, maybe even, and they are also celebrating birthdays. Like, it seems like there's a much more of a connection, or like a community together, as if. Was that the case most of the times, or only in particular periods that was
even with the collective? When the collective was meeting, we ended up sometimes doing a drama for someone who was depressed or who was struggling or who was in something. It was like, oh, it was unorthodox for any meetings or anything like that. It's very, very unorthodox. But it was, I remember doing a drama for Penny and Earl, and they said something like, "We're going to have to pay you for this." And I said, "Yes, you'll give me your first child for a weekend." So I did. I had an honorary grandchild in my family. Did I answer that about the weekends and the
Yeah, I was just wondering, there seems to be like a lot of sense of community. There seems to be, yeah, more than psychodrama going on there or something, so like as people are
it's sociometry. Sociometry is very powerful. It really is, to create safety and to create it quickly. And I've seen in so many residential things, people coming and saying how the first night they are feeling like a family. They are feeling the strength and power of that. So it's paying attention to the sociometry and doing that very carefully at the beginning, so that you include everybody and so that you give everyone a chance to have their voice. But there was, I think Moreno's brilliance is that whole aspect of co-creating with God. I do not think that, I think that each person who comes can connect to the soul connection in the group. And I think it's when you are aware of that as a leader, you are fostering or supporting that or midwifing that. It's like, you see the connections that can develop, and you foster the questions that help people sort what would help you to feel safer about the room you're choosing or whatever in that process. What do you need us to know in terms of choosing a space for your sleep? And that paying attention to those things opens the door for people to feel like this is someplace, this is different than I expected. I was worried, I was anxious about this, and now this is no longer something to worry about. I have a voice, I have a chance to be here. So
Well, I think that your sharing leads nicely to a question that Ananta and I were thinking about asking you. If you had a chance to talk to the future trainees of psychodrama, what would you say to them?
I would say you're very lucky to be here. This is a wonderful method. And the founder, when he was developing and working with it, had really a very close connection to spirit. And in that, he was guided in a lot of knowledge that is embedded in the psychodrama process and in the sociometric process. And here you are, not only are you going to be helping people with their problems, but you're going to be helping them with why they came to be here in this world. And it's like that piece that only they can bring to the world is what you're going to be looking for and seeing and helping them and supporting them to be themselves in the group. And the richness of what that will mean for you is that you will also find what you came to do and what you came to be in this world. And you will find a method that can help you as much as you can use it.
I love that.
Yep, you're perfect examples, the two of you.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Donna, that you would like people to know about you, about your journey in psychodrama?
I think that I'm still learning. I had cancer, and the cancer was a part of me that is not very far from that trapped part inside that I dealt with in my psychodrama early. It was a piece that I ingested from my mother, who was never able to really love me for who I was and what I had. She was very jealous of me. And so what happened was I ingested in that choice to be what she wanted me to be. I ingested her voice, her criticism of me, her cruelty to me. And I never could say that until this year. I was doing some work with someone with the Enneagram in a week of prayer. And in that week, I really saw that my mother was 2 in the Enneagram, and that the person who was guiding me was a 2. And she said, yeah, that cruelty can happen for 2s. That can happen. And the next morning I woke up and I was crying and deeply sobbing for that child inside me that had always never been received by my mother. She always gave away everything I wanted to give her. And maybe except when she died, it was different. And I never did the work, until after she died. And then I faced that she was different to me than to the others. And it was because her mother she had always longed for her mother to love her. And her mother didn't love her, but she loved me immediately she met me. Mm. And that was very hard for my mother to see that. Mm. So it's subtle, that whole part of the rage that pushes you away. It says, come closer, but then pushes you away. Mm-hmm. Peace. But the thing that I'm very grateful for is that all the work I did in psychodrama enabled my children not to have to do that work. It is generations. This is generations of stuff that came down through my mother and her mother, and mm-hmm. all of it. It's like, you made your bed, you go lie in it. That was the attitude. It's like I had a chance with this method to free myself and to have a way of looking at things as I proceed in life that opened that up. So I believe that when I had the cancer removed, that it was gone, that part of cruelty to myself, the last vestige of cruelty. That made me do things that were a little bit sometimes reckless, as my children would say. And I ended up having a displaced shoulder or something that took me almost a whole year to get over. So it's like, I believe that this method has keys for your unfolding and freeing yourself through life. And I think you're very lucky to be here, and hope you will take full advantage of it for yourself. And the more that you work with yourself in courage, the more you will be able to offer to others, because you won't get in the way of seeing what they need to have happen for them, and of seeing them in that way that will support their unfolding to be who they can be and who they are to be.
Thank you. I want to show you something where I saw psychodrama in Canada for the first time.
Oh, yes. That's a beautiful place. Do you know what it is? You see it?
So I'm going to suggest that we are able to put this one on the web, right?
Yep.
I want to say something like that to kind of, in the that you guys chose these places, like they were retreat places wherever you'll go, whether it's, Donna's, the Huntsville place or this one or Stratford. Yeah.
We were very lucky to have, places. Well, we were expeditious. I mean, Liz White had a cottage which she offered. So we went in the beginning when we went to cottages, we went there. Then I had a cottage and we went there for 20 years. Then I didn't have a cottage. We went to Donna's cottage. We tried other places. We went to, I don't think we went to Five Oaks, but maybe Barbara's gone to Five Oaks. I don't know.
Yes, she has. Yeah.
Barbara's gone to Five Oaks, and Barbara's Stratford house was also used. I've done workshop there.
Right, and actually I did Madeline, not Madeline. Yes.
Miriam and you did.
Yes, my last workshop was there.
Miriam and you did that. Yeah.
My last workshop, there was such an amazing experience. We did more sociodramas than I think we've ever done at the Toronto Centre in any workshop. We had some 3 students had come with their trainer, and they were serious about they did not want to do any psychodramas. But there were 2 psychodramas that were done. And one of them was in a small group. The rest were doing sociodramas. And the other one, there was a person whose mother was dying. And there happened to be a mother and her daughter there. And they had roles to play in this drama. The power of the drama for the whole group was immense. But there was an encounter before, because the trainer from California did not want to be doing anything but sociodrama, because it was a sociodrama week. And it's interesting because she's encountered me publicly about 2 times since about that. Always perceiving that it should not have happened. And my experience of psychodrama is that, and sociometry and sociodrama, is that there's a fluidness. The whole group chose that drama. the whole group benefited from that drama. And the fact that you still hold on to a sense that it should not happen, to me, is disallowing the spontaneity of a group and a situation.
Mhm.
And the spontaneity is the thing to follow. And I think that it's important to follow your own heart and what's right for you, as well as your head and what you want to learn. Because you may find that the learning is in the place you least expect.
Mhm.
Do you want to see a couple of more pictures?
Sure. Oh, yes. That was the laughing game exercise where you all lie on the tummy of the other person and then you start laughing. And it's amazing how that brought deep joy and laughter to people.
Mhm.
There's Madeline, and I don't quite recognize who that is. Could be Karen. I don't know who it is.
They seemed like to show action to my mind, to my eyes. So I was like, okay, that's a simple kind of thing. Maybe one can put that. I first thought it was Fiona Roche, but it's not.
I don't think so. It's not
Yeah.
easily recognizable.
This one you'll recognize.
Yes, Gloria.
Yeah.
And Lucia and Jill. And is that Judy? Judy Henwood?
Donna.
Looks like it.
Birthday is happening.
Aha. Here's George. George, and there's Ted Bober. And there's Barbara Guest's brother. Gloria and me. And behind me, I'm not sure who that is.
Donna. So I'll scan these. If I
Okay.
can scan them or take pictures at least. I did that, right? Pictures. I took the pictures and then sent it, Kim, earlier.
Yep.
So I would do something like that, and then you can decide if that seemed good too.
Yep.
We intend to make a gallery of pictures on the website.
Good. Yeah.
That's part of the things we are trying to do.
So Donna, if you have any photos that you think might be helpful for that gallery, please let us know about them.
Okay, I will. I will go searching. I did a little bit of searching for stuff for Anne Hale, but I didn't find it. And I know that I have stuff for the Toronto Centre, but maybe up in my attics.
Mhm.
So I may get there now that I can probably climb the stairs now again.
Mhm. It feels to me like we're coming to the end for today.
Yep, it makes sense.
Mhm.
There's a poem of Anne's that makes me think of. I'll go get it. There's two poems of hers that might be Um, this is a meditation of Anne's that she often used. I breathe light into the middle of my heart, allowing the light to expand into one unified field of light within which, and within, through, and around my body. I breathe joy into the center of my being, allowing the light to expand into one unified field of light within, through, and around my being. I breathe God into the center of the group. And here's some words of the Father, Moreno. I created all that has been created with the aid of all the beings who were created. First I was alone, then I created with my aloneness. And when I was two, then I created with my two-ness. And then I was three and more, and I created with all my companions. This is the law of the universe. Whoever is a part of creation is a part of the Creator. He is part of me. So Anne taught us co-creation in her brilliance as a director and creator and innovative sociometrist. Okay, this is the one that made me think about it. So I was looking at you both and I was feeling your smile. You're welcome, so wholehearted, and close to me in a smile that cracks upon my face until I feel me smiling. I'm again warmed by the possibility of self-love. I can release you now from your steadiness. You are always part of my smile, always in my body's heart. That was a poem she gave to me in 2013 for my birthday.
Did she write that?
Yes.
Mhm.
So beautiful.
And here's another one she wrote. There's a bear in the woods. I take in the pure wellspring of love you have for me, savoring that purity, holding it close as I grieve those other times, slights that hurt and confound, and those wounds, even those I give myself without you there to caution. Please don't do this to yourself. Out of the gloomy and self-righteous grip of some unclaimed story and forgotten hurt, without an inkling of awareness, I load an arrow, penetrating not your body, but your love-filled intent. How come this embedded destroyer erupts? What flaw inches the wounded bear to claw and overpower and turn you into prey? As if I never took in your love, as if the value of love had diminished to less. How can it be less than zero? How can it be possible that you persist? How dare you love so blindly, clothed in your thin gown, protected only by your belief in love, while I, in all my wounded, bare energy, claw myself open with a hungry why in search of answers. What cruel beast left its imprint, its brutal paw on the open heart of my child's soul? First, I'm really a baby bear wearing the dead mother's fur. She is brilliant, capable, teaches me everything I need to know. The only thing is, I want her to love me, and she's busy loving the others. I cry inside, I want my mother. Inside, I'm really, really sad. Makes me angry to be sad. I lash out. Floating in your cotton sleep gown, you lean down and with tender hands to my cheeks, you place a kiss there and say, good night. Donna, I forgive you for loving me. Donna, I love you. I let your constancy of loving me in. Happy birthday.
Mm.
2012.
Hmm.
One of the things I think would be useful in the archives are some of the songs that we sang. How could anyone ever tell you
I know.
anything less than beautiful?
Yep.
How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply we're connected to your soul. And then
That's a nice idea.
Yeah. Should we make an audio of, and do the recordings and put the lyrics there? What do you think?
I think the audio, because people have to know the tune. If there are people that have not heard it.
My church actually sings that song.
And that's where I learned it.
All right.
Was at the Catholic Church was a Women's Day, and there were a whole pile of women musicians and women telling their stories. And after everybody told their story, sang that song.
I think that's a really lovely idea. And we can easily put that on our website, because that song's on YouTube, and I'm sure that other ones are, right? With the artist singing.
I will be gentle with myself. I will be gentle with myself, and I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will be tender with my heart. I will be tender with my heart, and I will hold my heart like a newborn baby child. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. And I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. This I know, I am gentle with myself. I am gentle with myself, and I hold myself like a newborn baby child. I think those are very precious, and
Yeah,
the history.
I agree.
And there is a song that Anne has. I will forgive you as God forgives me. I will live with you as God helps me be. I will forgive me for all I do wrong. I will forgive all, forgive with this song. I will still love you as God loves me still. I will stand by you at your side as we kneel. I will be steadfast, believe and be strong. I will forgive all, forgive with this song. I will be mindful, we each have our way. I will take time for you when I pray. I will be truthful through life hard and strong. All things are possible with God as our song. That, and her church sang that song, but she sang that in workshops after 2008. So anyway, I think that's probably enough.
Thank you so much, Donna. I can listen to you endlessly, but I appreciate the time that you've given, really. It's so wonderful. So wonderful. Treasure, really.
It's been lovely to be with you, both of you.
I feel filled with joy.
Thank you for thinking about this. It's a good idea. It will be great.
Wonderful.
I'm going
do
to,
you have more to do now? Like in your planning, you have your day together, right? So do you have more to do planning?